You open an app. You swipe left. You swipe right. A face appears. Then another. Then another. Finding a partner can feel like a modern problem. But almost everything you think about this is wrong. Because your ancestors spent hundreds of thousands of years searching for mates in a world with no cities, no phones, no profiles, and sometimes no more than a few dozen people within walking distance. How did anyone find anyone? At first glance, it seems impossible. A modern city contains millions of potential partners. Many ancient human groups contained fewer than 100 people. Some contained far less. Yet somehow your ancestors found mates often enough to spread across continents, survive ice ages, and eventually become the most widespread large mammal on Earth. So what were they doing differently? The first thing to understand is that ancient humans were almost never completely alone. Popular movies often show tiny isolated bands wandering through empty landscapes. Reality was more connected. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly found that groups maintain relationships with neighboring groups over surprisingly large areas. People traded. People visited. People exchanged information. People attended gatherings. And those gatherings changed everything. Imagine living in a band of 30 or 40 people. You know every face. You know every story. You know every argument. Then, after months of travel and hunting, several neighboring groups meet at a seasonal gathering near water, migrating animals, or a reliable food source. Suddenly the social world explodes. New faces appear. New friendships form. New romances begin. Could this have been one of humanity's oldest dating systems? Many researchers think something very similar happened. Anthropologist Joseph Birdsell proposed that prehistoric populations likely existed as interconnected networks rather than isolated groups. Genes support that idea. Ancient human populations remain surprisingly diverse despite often living in small communities. That diversity suggests movement, interaction, and mate exchange between groups. Otherwise, close relatives would have been forced to reproduce with one another far more often than evidence suggests. Your ancestors were not simply searching inside one camp. They were searching across social networks. Those networks stretched farther than you might expect. But finding a potential mate was only part of the challenge. The next question was attraction. What made someone desirable 50,000 years ago? The answer begins with something surprisingly familiar. Health mattered. A great deal. Long before medicine existed, visible signs of health provided clues about survival. Clear skin. Strong movement. Good posture. Healthy hair. Energy. Physical capability. These signals existed long before anyone consciously discussed them. Your brain still notices many of them today. Evolutionary psychologist David Buss spent decades studying human mate preferences across cultures. While modern societies vary enormously, certain patterns repeatedly appear. People often value signs associated with health, competence, and the ability to contribute to survival. The details change. The underlying logic remains remarkably ancient. Why? Because choosing a mate was never just about the present moment. It was about the future. A poor decision could affect survival for years. Food was uncertain. Predators existed. Injuries happened. Harsh winters arrived. Choosing someone capable, trustworthy, and socially connected could dramatically improve the odds of survival. Ancient attraction was not simply about appearance. It was also about reputation. Imagine two hunters. One consistently shares food. The other keeps everything for himself. One helps injured group members. The other disappears when problems arise. Which person would seem like a better long-term partner? The answer seems obvious. That is because humans evolved inside cooperative communities. Reputation mattered. Perhaps more than many people realize. Anthropologist Christopher Bohm argued that human groups often monitored social behavior closely. Generosity was visible. Cruelty was visible. Reliability was visible. People watched. People remembered. And those observations likely influenced mate choice. In small communities, character was difficult to hide. Today, a stranger can create an online profile. Ancient humans lived inside a reputation system that never switched off. Everyone knew someone who knew someone. Every action created information. That information traveled. But there was another challenge. How do you avoid choosing close relatives? This problem becomes serious when populations remain small. Remarkably, humans appear to have developed social solutions very early. Many hunter-gatherer societies encourage people to find partners outside their immediate group. Anthropologists call this exogamy. The word sounds complicated. The idea is simple. Look beyond your closest relatives. Seek connections elsewhere. This practice helps maintain genetic diversity. It also strengthens alliances between groups. One relationship can become a bridge connecting entire communities. That bridge can bring resources, information, and support during difficult times. A marriage was often more than a relationship. It was a social connection linking worlds together. Could ancient humans have understood genetics? Of course not. Yet evolution does not require conscious understanding. Groups that developed practices reducing inbreeding often survived more successfully over long periods. The result was cultural traditions that helped solve biological problems. Some of those traditions may stretch back tens of thousands of years. Then there is the question of love. Did ancient humans fall in love? The evidence suggests something fascinating. Your brain contains chemical systems associated with bonding, attachment, and affection. These systems are ancient. Very ancient. Research by scientists such as Helen Fisher has explored how romantic attachment involves neurological pathways connected to motivation, reward, and long-term bonding. Those systems did not suddenly appear in modern cities. They evolved long before written language existed. Long before agriculture. Long before civilization. Your ancestors likely experienced excitement, longing, jealousy, attachment, and heartbreak in forms that would feel surprisingly recognizable today. The setting was different. The emotions were not. Imagine spotting the same person repeatedly during seasonal gatherings. A glance becomes a conversation. A conversation becomes anticipation. Days feel shorter. Distance feels longer. The human brain has been performing the versions of this story for an extraordinarily long time. Yet romance alone was not enough. Ancient life was demanding. Partnership often involved practical realities. Could this person gather food? Could this person cooperate with others? Could this person contribute during difficult seasons? Could this person help raise children? These questions mattered because human children are unusual. They require enormous investment. Far more than many animals. Anthropologist Sarah Hrdy has emphasized how human childrearing depends heavily on cooperation. Parents help. Grandparents help. Relatives help. Friends help. Humans evolved within networks of support. Finding a mate, therefore, meant entering a larger social structure. The relationship affected entire communities. Not just two individuals. This may help explain another surprising feature of human attraction. People often care about social approval. Friends matter. Family opinions matter. Community reputation matters. Why? Because relationships rarely existed in isolation. A successful partnership often depended on broader support systems. Ancient humans were choosing partners inside interconnected social worlds. And those worlds had memories. They remembered generosity. They remembered skill. They remembered loyalty. Those traits could become powerful forms of attraction. There was also competition. Not everyone found a partner immediately. Not everyone succeeded equally. Human history contains courtship, rejection, rivalry, and disappointment stretching back far beyond recorded history. Ancient people were human. That means they carried many of the same emotional experiences that exist today. Hope. Fear. Excitement. Uncertainty. The details changed. The feelings endured. What might courtship actually have looked like? No one can know every detail. But clues exist. Music appears ancient. Dance appears ancient. Adornment appears ancient. Archaeologists have discovered beads, pigments, ornaments, and decorative objects dating back tens of thousands of years. Why spend time creating such things? One possibility involves identity and attraction. Decoration communicates information. It signals group membership. Skill. Creativity. Status. Attention. Even today, clothing and appearance send social messages before a single word is spoken. Ancient ornaments may have served similar purposes. They transformed the body into communication. A necklace could say something. Paint could say something. Decoration could say something. Humans are storytelling animals. Even without writing, people constantly send signals about who they are. Courtship likely involved many of those signals. And then there was storytelling itself. Imagine sitting beside a fire. Darkness surrounds the camp. Voices fill the night. Stories reveal personality. Humor. Intelligence. Confidence. Kindness. Ancient humans did not need dating profiles. They spent enormous amounts of time observing one another directly. In some ways, they may have known potential partners far more deeply than many modern strangers meeting online. That does not mean life was easier. Far from it. Distances were greater. Opportunities were fewer. Survival was harder. But information about character was often richer. The person standing beside the fire was not a photograph. They were a living history visible to everyone around them. Thousands of generations experienced this reality. Then something changed. Agriculture appeared. Villages grew. Cities emerged. Social worlds expanded. The ways humans found partners transformed again and again. Yet beneath every cultural change, something ancient remained. Your brain. The same basic system shaped by countless generations of ancestors searching for connection in forests, grasslands, rivers, coastlines, and open plains. The technology changed. The biology stayed. That is why modern dating sometimes feels strangely emotional. The environment is new. The instincts are old. A brain designed for small communities now navigates enormous networks of strangers. A mind built to evaluate real-world reputation now processes curated images and carefully selected information. The ancient machinery remains active. It is simply operating in a landscape it never expected. So how did ancient humans find a mate? Not through apps. Not through algorithms. Not through endless scrolling. They found one another through gatherings, friendships, families, stories, reputation, cooperation, attraction, and the social networks that connected small groups across vast landscapes. And the strangest part is that many of those forces still shape your choices today. The tools look different. The emotions do not. The setting looks different. The instincts do not. You may think you are navigating a completely modern search. But beneath every conversation, every first impression, every spark of attraction, and every hope for connection, ancient patterns are still quietly at work. You open an app. You swipe left. You swipe right. And hidden beneath that glowing screen is a story that began long before screens existed.